Our next equity issue has to do with religion. Now, Pakistan is significant on the geopolitical stage, not only because of its geographical location, but also because Pakistan tends to be the second largest Muslim state or nation with a fast-growing youth population. These two factors make it important to understand the role religion plays in the social, political, economic life of its citizens. With only a small percentage of the GDP spent on education in the country, the Pakistani education system has faced challenges for decades. In fact, from 1947, we faced these challenges in terms of the different types of schools, in terms of madrasa education, in terms of religious education, and we will be looking at madrasa education and religious education in much more detail in the third unit of this course. Right now, we are only going to focus on the disparity among the different religious groups in terms of education. In last decade or so, Pakistan has faced the challenge of growing violent extremism in the country, which has significantly impacted religious minorities. The religious minorities in this country are, of course, Christians, Hindus, Sikhs, Parsis, and the like. With this religious extremism, and now we see it in the recent years even among the different subgroups of the Muslim community, which is rather unfortunate. With this trend of thinking going on in the country, it is becoming more and more difficult to keep the minorities safe and secure so that they can contribute as constructive citizens in the development and progress of this nation. If we look at years closer to partition and independence, we will see that a lot of Christian schools in terms of convents run by the missionaries was prominent, was rampant, and you got the best education from those kinds of schools. Today, those schools exist, but they are scarce, far between. Many have shut down because they were not able to continue and provide that kind of quality education for the students under their care. The Pakistani government has nevertheless put forward recommendations for education reforms building on efforts that began in 2006. That's a good 60 years, some years after independence, which began in 2006 with the revision of the curricula. The government at that time decided to change the curricula and to make it more balanced in terms of gender, in terms of minority groups, in terms of socioeconomic status of individuals, and also in terms of stereotyping. And the best way to begin this process would be to look at the curricula. What does the curricula include? What are we teaching? And then to focus on the textbooks. The reforms have leaned on the 22nd article of the Constitution, 1973, which codifies the rights of religious minorities in education. And this is what that article says. No person attending any educational institution shall be required to receive religious instruction or take part in any religious ceremony or attend religious worship if such instruction, ceremony, or worship relates to a religion other than his own. Which simply means teaching Islamic studies or Islamiyat to all students is not what the Constitution says. The Constitution says, yes, teach religious education to all students according to the religion they come from. Not an easy thing to do. It is as it is difficult to find good teachers. Where are you going to find good teachers able to teach Hinduism or Christianity or Zoroastrianism or Sikhism or whatever, because obviously unless you come from that particular religion, you will not be able to teach that to your students. And what about schools that may have maybe 3 or 4 Sikh children? Is the school going to be able to afford getting one teacher for just 3, 4, 5 students? Probably not. And therefore, teaching Islamiyat or Islamic education where the majority, most of the students belong, tend to be easier for schools to do, and therefore that is what they do. Despite these efforts by the government to revamp curriculum and to change textbooks, it has been nearly 6 years since the revised curriculum guidelines were created. Textbooks comprehensively incorporated the revisions prescribed. But what are the results? Who has sat to evaluate and check what the new textbooks now are offering? You need to look. Somebody needs to go and do some research and find out. This is what the government intended to do. Has the government done that? The existing textbooks have been reprinted since 2006 with only minor adjustments, but as demonstrated in this study, have not addressed much of the problematic content. Content needs to be looked at, and somebody with an open mind needs to look at all textbooks and see what kind of text is there, what kind of graphics or pictures or photographs are going there. Are our students receiving a broad-based, tolerant education where diversity, even in religion, is an accepted norm? Findings from the SDPI study show attitudes towards religious minorities are decidedly mixed, with clear demonstrations of tolerance and equally clear expressions of bigotry. So what we see is where people try to teach and preach tolerance, unity in diversity, there are also those groups that teach, no, that is different. That is not what we believe. That is not what we should be professing. That is not what we should be teaching. And so diversity kind of dies out right there. So you have the two extremes at the continuum. How does one find middle ground?